What's up, everybody? Welcome to the ultimate Lorwyn Eclipsed pre-release guide for beginners. Today we're going to be making a guide for the friend you're bringing along to the pre-release who's a little bit nervous about doing their first event. We're about to get started, but before that, if you enjoyed the video, please feel free to subscribe, and if you can share any of your moments from your pre-release in the comments down below, that would be awesome. So what is a pre-release event? It is where you're going to be getting a kit that comes with 6 packs of Lorwyn Eclipse and a bonus foil rare card. Players are all going to get 50 minutes to open up their packs and then construct a 40 card deck consisting of 23 spells and 17 lands. After you build your deck, you're going to play 3 rounds of best of 1 limited Magic. The first step of building your limited deck is understanding your mana curve. Your mana curve is the amount of cards that line up in the certain mana costs that your deck is going to consist of. Wizards suggest having 1 or 2 cards that cost 1 mana, 7 to 8 cards that cost 2 mana, 5 to 6 cards that cost 3 mana, 3 to 4 cards that cost 4 mana, 2 to 3 cards that cost 5 mana, and 1 card that costs 6 mana. And the rest of your deck should be 17 lands. If you're a beginner, you should try your hardest to stick to this mana curve because it'll give you the most consistent opening hand of 7 cards. Your opening 7 should consist of at least 3 lands and 3 spells. You can have 1 extra spell or 1 extra land, but that is a keep. As long as you have playable spells in your hand, you should keep. However, if your opening hand has 6 lands and 1 spell, or 1 land and 6 spells, you should guarantee mulligan to a 6. Unlike Commander, there is no free mulligan when it comes to playing limited Magic, which means if you have a hand that is not functional, you'll shuffle that hand back into your library, draw a new 7, and then put 1 card back onto the bottom of your library. Trust me, keeping a functional hand with 6 cards is 10 times better than keeping an unplayable hand of 7 cards. Now that we know the number of cards we're playing and the mana costs of them, let's talk about the types of cards we can put in our limited decks. Magic players of old have been using the BREAD acronym for decades when it comes to building their limited decks. And though some people may think it's a little bit outdated, I think it is a decent basic way to understand some of these cards. And afterwards, we will introduce a simpler concept. First, we have B, which stands for bombs. A bomb is a card that, if left unchecked, will win the game. An example of a bomb rare could be a 6 mana Catharsis that has been cast with 2 red and 2 white mana. If the spell resolves, it'll generate 8 power worth of hasty creatures, which is often enough to put you out of the game. R stands for removal. These are spells that can be cast to destroy your creature's opponents or get rid of any other pesky permanents they may have. An example of a card that classifies as a removal spell is Liminal Hold. This is a card that can get rid of a permanent and gain you some life. However, if it gets destroyed, your opponent's permanent will come right back. E stands for evasion. This is kind of self-explanatory. These are creatures that either have flying or are just very difficult to block, whether they have menace or just the word unblockable. These cards are important because in limited games, you're trying to push the last few points of damage to win the game. Aggro can stand for aggressive creatures or spells that deal damage directly to your opponent's face. And D stands for duds. These are D tier cards that end up as filler in your decks. Now, as Magic has progressed, there's been fewer and fewer duds being reprinted into Magic, and our cards that are printed at the common and uncommon level are so much better than the cards from 15 years back that I think Evasion and Aggro have been a little outdated as concepts, because now we don't get printed 2 mana 2/2 vanilla creatures anymore. So there are other acronyms that people kind of prefer more these days. I'm going to be putting this article in the description below by Culture of Gaming, titled MTG Fundamentals, Bread is Dead. They kind of go into talking about why this theory is outdated and what theories could possibly replace it. But I think the most simple one is replacement number 3. Sticking on the food theme, we have the acronym KETO. K stands for kill spells and interaction that matters. E stands for efficient creatures, ones that have good stats, are good in combat, or are good either in the early or late game. T stands for top end, which is the way you'll finish your game, whether it's with the card like Catharsis or some other big beefy trample creature. O is the last category, which stands for other. It's the biggest category out of all these 3. It can be card draw, your fixing, synergy pieces, and anything else that are good staples to have in your deck. Now that we understand the basic concept of how many cards to play and what types of cards we should look out for, let's look into the 5 basic archetypes in Lorwyn Eclipsed. Lorwyn Eclipsed features 5 major archetypes: white-blue merfolks, black-red goblins, green-white kithkins, blue-red elementals, and black-green elves. Now, when building our deck, we're still going to stick to all the basic principles like our mana curve and keto. Now we just have a little bit more structure about what our decks like to do. The white-blue merfolk decks like taking advantage of tapping your opponent's permanents and getting benefits for tapping your own, as well as using the Convoke ability to cheat out bigger spells. Convoke is a mechanic that lets you tap your creatures down as mana for spells. The Goblins archetype is going to want you to use the Blight mechanic to put -1/-1 counters on your expendable creatures in order to gain benefits from either death triggers or synergies with counters. The Kithkin archetype is going to want you to keep casting creature spells. That way your existing creatures can gain triggered abilities and beef up your team. Now the Elementals archetype is seemingly the broadest. It cares about you casting spells that are 4 mana and greater. Their creatures have enters the battlefield effects, and their Gold Signpost Uncommon lets you double those triggers like a Panharmonicon. Now the Elves archetype is a little bit unfriendly to newer players because it involves self-mill. It likes you having cards in your graveyard, it likes you exiling them away to gain benefits, and it likes you having other elves. Out of all these archetypes, I think green-white Kithkins is going to be the most simple and straightforward to play. So this set mainly supports these 5 color pairs. However, most Magic the Gathering sets actually support 10 2-color pairs. It's interesting that we have cards that actually aren't in any of these color pairs that you can still play in your deck because of the hybrid mana cost. All right, now the moment we're all waiting for, and my favorite part, is doing a sample sealed pool on draftsimulator.com. This is one of my favorite sites to use, and anytime I'm really excited for a limited set or really excited for a pre-release, I will use it to practice. All right, once you get to draftsit.com, you're greeted with all these sets that you can practice limited Magic in. We're going to go ahead to the Lorwyn Eclipsed tab and pick Sealed. Now, once you click Sealed, you're going to be greeted by your pool. This is a representation of the 6 packs you've opened during your pre-release event. You're typically going to want to line them up in colors and mana cost the way these are sorted. So right off the bat, we can see we have a low number of white and black cards. So maybe those aren't the direction we can be leaning. And conversely, we see the most number of cards in blue. So we already know our pool is a little bit weak when it comes to white or black, or at least we might not have enough playables. Let's go ahead and look at our multicolor cards, because our multicolor cards are really helpful in terms of playing playable cards. So right now, we see 2 Deepway Navigators in our rare slot. This is a very powerful card. Anytime you're playing a creature for flash, you get to wait to see what your opponents do. When it enters, you get to untap another Merfolk. This is a decent rare, and we have 2 of them in white and blue. So we can be a mainly blue deck that plays this card and is still a Merfolk deck without leaning into the white. But let's keep looking. We have Feisty Spikeling. This card can either be a red card or a white card, so it counts in both of our piles. Same with Chaos Spewer. It could either be black or red. Eclipsed Elf. So this is a card you're obviously going to want to play in mainly green, mainly black decks. When it comes to 3 hybrid color pips, it's going to be hard to play this in a blue-green deck. So I would lean off playing something like this in that color pair specifically. Then we have Gangly Stompling, which counts for both colors. Now we have Morikant's Loyalist. This is a card that is not flexible. You need green mana and you need blue mana. It is clearly not as flexible as a Feisty Spikeling. However, it is a good card. So what you could also do is start putting cards off to the side that you know are pretty good and kind of like thinking about that in the back burner, like our Deepway Navigators. We have a Kithkin archetype card. We have another random Changeling. Changelings are kind of the glue that helps you play your cards. If we're going back to the bread analogy, these are kind of like your D tier cards or your duds. I mean, it's cool that this is technically a Merfolk. Any card with Changeling is every other type. However, we have some instant speed cards that are Kindred, Shapeshifter in black. Let's see if we've pulled any of those. We did not. However, a Shapeshifter is not a Changeling, and that's pretty important. We have the Gold Signpost Uncommon for blue-red, Twin Flame Traveler, so that could be a direction we're going in. Ooh. Okay, and another rare. What we can also do, and what I often do in my pre-release pools, is I'll also separate out my rares. So we have Raiding Schemes, Deepway Navigator, the Sabling Nursery, which is a pretty good green bomb. I think Landfall Create a 3/4 is pretty wild. Once you have 3/4, it's 5 mana and vice versa. So that's a pretty good card. And Champions of the Perfect is also a pretty good green card. Whenever you cast a creature spell, draw a card. Drawing a card is very good and limited. We have really good green rares, and we have the white-blue rares. So let's go back to sorting our pool by color. So we'll go ahead and see what's more viable, our green deck or our kind of Merfolk-esque deck. We do have a 4-mana Merfolk. Flying 3/3 with Surveil 1 is not bad. We have Kithkins, a Kithkin rare, a Merfolk Scout, 2 more Kithkins. So it seems like we have a lot of Timid Shield Bearers, which is a card you want to play in decks where you can generate a lot of creatures really quickly and then win with this 5-mana effect. I'm not sure. We have to check our blue to see what we're doing, if we're doing Merfolk or not. Okay, we have this enters enchanted creature gains hexproof until end of turn. Okay, so we have a protection spell. We have 2 Merfolk Rogues. Whenever this creature attacks, you may tap another untapped creature you control. If you do, this creature can't be blocked. That's kind of cool if we suit up this creature and get it bigger and do more damage with it. We have a fairy. We have an elemental wizard that does care about 4 mana or greater. It'll become a 4/4 with vigilance whenever you cast a spell with 4 mana or greater. So it doesn't have to be an instance or sorcery or removal spell. This could be creatures as well. Swat away a decent interaction spell. Another important thing to note is you should check which color has the most interaction spells, because right now, since we moved on to the play booster format, you can have multiple rares in a pack, and if your opponent opens a ton of rares and you don't, you might as well just over-index on removal spells to deal with all their rare cards. Okay, we have more Merfolk. We only have 2 Merfolks that are in like the 2-drop slot. This draws a card and gives +2/+2 and has flying. And it has Convoke, so if you have a lot of creatures, this is a really good card to suit up like an unblockable creature like Gravelgale Scoundrel. Then we have a Changeling, which also has Convoke. You may have this creature enter the battlefield as a copy of any other creature except it has Changeling. And then we have a Stratosorer. It has basic land cycling, so this helps with hand smoothing. If this is in your opening 7, you can always just trade it for a land to help get you into the late game instead of worrying about getting to 5 mana to cast this spell. We have Shrine Striker, an elemental that cares about Vivid and draws you a ton of cards. And then we have a Kindred Sorcery Merfolk. So if we had the multicolored card that searches for the Merfolk spell, like how the Eclipsed Merfolk card as opposed to the Eclipsed Elf, we would actually be able to grab Wondervine Farewell because it is a Merfolk card. So this says return 1 or 2 non-land permanents to their hands. Then if you control a Merfolk, create a 1/1 white and blue Merfolk creature token for each permanent returned to its owner's hand this way. So this is really good. So if you're able to tap down 3 of your own creatures, bounce 2 of your opponent's stuff, generate 2 more Merfolk, that's going to be really good for the Convoke shell. So we have some decent blue. Now we just have to see what our green cards are saying to us. So we have an elf that enters or dies, surveil 1. That's good. Surveil and like milling cards that you don't need and trying to hit your land drops is pretty important. So we have 2 of these elves. We have Midnight Tilling, mill 4 cards, then return a permanent card from among them into your hand. This is like pretty decent when it comes to finding some of your rares. Not a bad card. We have a Kitkin Citizen. We have another Changeling that enters the battlefield, destroy up to 1 artifact or creature. That's cool. We have a rare. We have this thing that searches for lands. This creature can't be blocked by more than 1 creature. Another thing you're balancing throughout this entire process is how many creatures you have in a color, how many spells you have in a color. So we can sort by... Oh, we can't sort by type. What happens if I hit spread? Okay, I don't like that. And then we can sort by CMC as well. And then we can see what we have in our 2-drop slot. Because remember, we want around 6 to 8 2-drops. So, and out of those 6 to 8, we want 6 of them to at least be creatures or things that are going on the board. We have a ton of Vile Boggarts. 4 of them is pretty wacky. You can just keep making your opponent's creatures weaker. We have a ton of red 3-drops. Oh, 2 of them are Goat Nap. And then it seems like our top end cards are strongest in green, but I don't think we can splash green. So we can kind of go green plus anything. We can go blue-white for our Deepway Navigators. The thing is with Deepway Navigators, you need... It says, as long as you attack with 3 or more Merfolk this turn, Merfolk you control get +1/+0. Like, that's great for aggro, but you need a ton of Merfolk. Which we don't really... We have very few of the white ones. We only have 2 in the early game. So it's going to make it hard. I mean, I guess they count themselves. So if we go Deepway Navigator and the Gilgrave Scoundrel, that is 4 2-drops in the colors. We could play some number of Shield Bearer. We have a Fairy Rogue rare. Remove a counter from this creature whenever a creature you control deals combat damage to a player. Draw a card. So any number of your creatures connecting with a player or planeswalker, you will get to draw a card off this. A 1-mana 1/1 flyer that has a mana sink ability is not too bad. I would just go ahead and throw that in the deck anyway. Let's sort by color again. We have a 3-drop Meander's Guide. Whenever this creature attacks, you may tap another untapped merfolk you control. When you do, return target creature with mana value 3 or less from your graveyard right back onto the battlefield. That's really good. We still might be looking a little thin for this merfolk strategy. So Kindred Sorcery Merfolk is still going to be good in our deck. The Shapeshifters are good because they can be merfolks as well. Let's see. Merfolk Wizard. When this becomes tapped, target creature and opponent controls gets -3 until end of turn. So that's pretty decent. It's a 4-drop though. So we have to be mindful about our top end being like too heavy. We also have Swat Away as a interaction spell. We don't have any interaction spells in white except for Keep Out. Deal 4 damage to target creature. We're just kind of forced to play this because we're really light on interaction. Let's go ahead and see if we have any other spells. So this would be an aggressive card I would play as a 2-drop because we're trying to be low to the ground aggressive, and this counts as a white creature. So I'm going to go ahead and play that for sure. Let's see. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 creatures and 10 creatures, 3 spells. That is looking a little light. You typically want 16 creatures, 8 spells. 5 mana is up. So this deck really wants us to be playing low-cost creatures. So I guess we will just play the Timid Shield Bearers in some number. Other Kitkin getting +1/+0. This is just an overly statted 4-drop. It's a 4-drop that has Flash and is a 5/4. Flash kind of plays like a merfolk. As an additional cost, is cast a spell, behold a Kithkin, and exile. When this creature leaves, return it to its hand. So you need to have a Kithkin to play this card. Otherwise, you can't cast it at all. And that is pretty rough. So we've gotten this far into the deck building, and we can see we're a little light on creatures, a little light on interaction. And again, that is because our white was the least amount of cards we had. So we tried with our 2 rares, but I think going green base, putting in our Sapling Nursery and our Champions of the Perfect are going to be way stronger for us. Let's see how many elves we have, because the champion does care about elves. So we will play Moon Vigil Adherence. This creature gets +1/+1 for each creature you control and each creature card in your graveyard. We're going to just play kind of all the elves so that we can do the Behold and Exile an Elf for Champions of the Perfect. We're going to go ahead and play our Eclipsed Elf. Even though our black... Oh man, our black is like not looking great. Our black is also thin. This could be a situation where we're honestly just playing blue-red Elemental. But yeah, you have like 50 minutes to figure these decisions out. So this is an elf. This is a Trampling Elf. We're totally playing it. That is not a Shapeshifter in our colors. We'll play the Morkent's Loyalist for sure. We can play Chinis Graspling just fine. This is a Convoke card. So this is a card that would have gone in our Merfolk deck for sure, actually, the one we were building previously. And then Evolving Wilds, you always try to play at least one. That way it can grab you. If you're light on green or if you're light on black, it'll give you fixing for that. So the first Evolving Wilds is always free. You should just play it. Let's see. Do we have anything that cares about elves? Everything is a goblin. We have a rare goblin. And then we have 2 enraged Flamecasters. And these changelings in red. Ooh-wee. I honestly think we can go like green-red. I think we don't necessarily need to go heavy on the elves that much. Let's see, do we have any fixing? Fixes the number of colors among permanents. That's not really good fixing. Do we have any fixing here? Add 1 mana of any color. This creature becomes that color until end of turn. Okay, so it filters, and when it enters Surveil, that's pretty decent. That's a good filler 1/3. But when we're looking to play, when you're playing Sealed and you need to get into 3 colors, you're going to want to play a card like that. And now that we can kind of get a little bit of help here on our colors. Let's see, these guys, these are just scarecrows. Okay. We're at 13. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 creatures. We need about 5 more. So I think we take this changeling. He's an elf, and he's actually really good. Should have put him in much earlier. Target creature control gets +1/+1 and vigilance until end of turn. Activates a sorcery. That's kind of decent. Target creature control gets +1/+0 until end of turn. It deals damage equal to its power to up to 1 target creature opponent controls. So that's an interaction spell. We definitely take that. 100%. We could play Midnight Tilling if we're trying to find our sapling nursery. Like, that's not a bad card at all. We're still not really our only second color here. Everything here is green except for Morkant's Loyalist. And it seems like our black isn't bad. It's very low to the ground. But it's very when this creature dies, if it had a -1/-1 counter on it, return to the battlefield under its owner's control, and it loses all abilities, so it comes back at least once. That's pretty cool. That's the Wretch. The Heirloom onto you. Whenever another creature you control dies, surveil one, then remove a 1/1 counter from this creature. Okay, so it's kind of overstated, and it gives you a little ability. I think green-blue is like where I would go with this deck. I'd get rid of this. I'd keep the changelings. Are there any changelings in blue I want? There's a Merfolk in double blue. Other than that, there kind of isn't. But we have a lot of good blue like cards. Or maybe it's red. What do we, really? It's where's our best removal at? Just because exile top 2. Yeah, we got dicked on removal real bad here. This is so interesting. This is such an interesting pool. This is like a terrible example pool for me to done this with. But this is how difficult it's going to be thinking between 2 to 3 decks. Without us knowing how good each individual uncommon is, it's very hard to say. Yeah, because our blue Merfolk gang ain't too bad, but it's very hard to cast the Deepway Navigator. Like, Deepway Navigator is vastly more difficult to cast than a Feisty Spikeling. It's even harder to cast than Morkant's Loyalist. Even though they're 2 separate solid pips of color, the fact that you have 1 more turn to line it up makes Morkant's Loyalist a lot easier to cast than a Deepway Navigator. I'd hate to do it, but I think we're going back to Merfolk, I'm pretty sure. Even though this card is such a house. It's just like our interaction. We have no interaction spells in our pool, which is like terrible. So we have a lot of green creatures in 2. We don't have we have 5 in the white blue. Now, you always want to resonate with your whatever's easier to cast earlier in your curve. I think that, keep out decent. Let's see, we can always do the scarecrows for more 2-drops, because again, like, we care about the number of Merfolk specifically, which is like okay. But we also care about our creature count. We want to be playing an aggressive deck, so we're gonna play the Marrow Skimmer. Aquitics, defenses, seems like just a decent interaction spell. This is a combat trick. We're gonna want some number of combat tricks, especially in an aggressive deck, so we're gonna take it. We're gonna get the Meander's Guide for sure. Enters, tap, target creature control, or untap target creature control. So you can do a pretty hefty attack and then flash this in and have that same attacker block. So that's kind of a cool card. There's an elemental that cares about 4 mana or more. Everything the 3-drop is red. Yeah, our 3-drops are like toast. So we might as well take this Glamour Might. It's just a flying 2/2 for 3, not bad. We can grab this Merfolk. We can get this interaction spell. We can get these Merfolk. Gathering Stone I kind of don't want. Even though I can pay 4 mana, make Merfolks cost 1 less. Paying 4 mana, that's something that doesn't really affect the board, is not great. So when this artifact enters at the beginning of your upkeep, look at the top card of your library. This is a card of a chosen type. You may reveal it, put it into your hand. If you don't put the card into your hand, you may put it into the graveyard. That's honestly not that bad, because it kind of gives you like a double draw in a way. Not terrible, but not something I'm too interested. I'm going to play this other 4-mana Merfolk here. We're going to get this other Changeling Convoke spell. Whenever you cast a spell as though it has flash, if you control a fairy, this creature has hexproof as long as it's untapped. Not really into it for our deck, to be honest. And then the Wandering Farewell. So you can see I'm at a 19 card count. And we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 2-drops. So we're going a little bit over on 2-drops because we want our deck to be aggressive. So it's kind of cool if we had this and then we kind of pick interaction spells or fight tricks to kind of help us keep going. So we have Keep Out. We have the defenses. We have this spell that makes it so that you can have the owner put a spell or creature onto the top or bottom of their library. That's like decent. It buys you a good amount of time. And then we have this double bounce spell, which cares about the Convoke. So if we're in a really bad way, this can swing tempo for us. So having, let's see, how many non-creatures? 1 instant, 1 enchantment, 2 instants, 1 enchantment, 1 sorcery. Okay, so we have 4 pieces of interaction. That's a little light. We're going to want more. See if there's anything in our colors. This enters and draws a card, so it's not bad. But we might play another Timid Shield Bearer to kind of keep our creature count low for the Convoke. Kind of makes us have evasion, which is pretty nice. And this will give us some basic land cycling. So we'll take it just to make our deck a tiny bit more consistent, even though it's like not that good of a card. Wow, we have no white, like non-creature stuff. As this artifact enters, choose Elemental, Elf, Fairy, Giant, Goblin, Kithkin, Merfolk, or Treefolk. Whenever a permanent you control the chosen type enters, you gain 1 life. Sacrifice this artifact. Return target card of the chosen type from your graveyard to your hand. That's not bad at all. Like, we might play that. We'll probably play another Flittering Nuisance instead. Because we care about creatures and we're playing Convoke. And then, as always, the first Evolving Wilds is free, but we are trying to play Deepway Navigator. We only have one 1-mana spell. So the first Evolving Wilds is free, and we will play it. So that is 23 cards, 1 land, and as always, your Elgios is going to have the rest of the lands to make your deck work. It's actually very important, the mana bases in Limited. So we have 1 Evolving Wilds, so we have 16 other lands. We can go 8 and 8 if we had an even amount of white and blue spells. We don't want to just keep drawing planes when we really need islands, because our deck is mainly islands. And the way we figure this out is we count the pips. Let's go ahead and make this a tiny bit larger. That's kind of the best I could do for y'all on short notice. So we're just going to count all the white pips. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. And then we're going to count this as 10. The halves, we're just going to count as 0.5. So it's going to be 2 halves, making it 10. So we have 10 white pips. How many blue pips do we have? We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. So we have double the amount of white pips, which typically means you're going to want a 7-10 split. You're going to want 7 plains, 10 islands. However, because we have Deepway Navigator and it's such an important card for us to win, we definitely want a white on one, or we definitely want plains and island early together. So instead of 7-10, we can probably just go 7-9 and just keep the Evolving Wilds. Or you can go 8 plains, 8 islands, keep the Evolving Wilds. But because we have so many double pip blue cards, we have 4 cards that are in double blue. I'm going to keep that 1 extra island, and it's going to be 7 plains, 8 islands, and an Evolving Wilds. And that's kind of how you're going to go about doing your build when it comes to your pre-release. You're going to do all of that in 50 minutes, and then you're going to play some games of Magic. And I hope you have fun. Again, if you enjoyed the content and found this the least bit helpful, please subscribe to the channel because it helps a huge amount. And more importantly than that, if you go play a pre-release this weekend, please come back to the video and comment a moment in your pre-release where you thought back to this video and it helped you. And until next time, sayonara, Sack Squad. I'm out.